All right, folks, let's talk about a game changer, literally. If you're a brand or retailer in the outdoor industry, think of Endeavor like the ultimate power-up for your sales game. This platform is designed to level up retail associates, giving them the XP they need to master your gear, sell more, and rack up rewards along the way. It's like a cheat code for better sales, making sure your products don't just sit on the shelves but actually move. Why is this valuable? Well, trained and motivated staff sell way more gear. Brands using Endeavor, like K2 Sports and Smith Optics, have seen better sell-through, stronger brand engagement, and real data insights on what works. And here's where Endeavor gets really interesting. It's gamified. That means learning about products and earning incentives feels fun and not like homework. But there's also a couple of other power-ups you'll want to consider. First is their partnership with Locally, so online shoppers can instantly find a knowledgeable staffer in a nearby store ready to seal the deal. Second is an option known as Freemium, where you can launch brand assets, push newsfeed posts, and coordinate rep clinics. And with Endeavor's pay-as-you-go plans, you can take sales contests, education campaigns, or collect staff insights collection programs all out for a test drive. The bottom line, if your retail game is feeling like it's stuck in easy mode, Endeavor is the upgrade you need to unlock next-level sales, max out your team's knowledge, and beat the boss when it comes to customer experience. Head to Endeavor, that's ENDVR.io, to learn more today. Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True. It's St. Patrick's Day, so get your Guinness and your shamrocks ready, because joining producer Dave and myself is a legit Irishman, Eoin Comerford, and we're going to talk about the state of the outdoor economy. But before we get to that, come back to the Rock Fight this Wednesday when outdoor journalist Justin Hausman will be off this week, so I'll be joined by outdoor journalist Shantae Salabert to talk through recent headlines to come out of the outdoor community, and then also come back on Friday, where I'll probably be rolling solo with a hot take. Lastly, it's time for you to subscribe to this show and also to Open Container, the newest Rock Fight podcast that is hosted by outdoor industry legend Doug Schnitzbahn. All you have to do is tap the follow button on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on, and also subscribe to News from the Front, Rock Fight's weekly newsletter that comes out tomorrow. So head to rockfight.co and sign up now, and stick around. We'll be right back. You're listening to Rock Fight Radio. No! Fit Socks is riding high with a string of number ones, and because of that success, they were able to get super producer Rick Albini to remaster this hit, We Believe in the Sock. Here we go. It's time for Fits.
We believe in the sock to make you happy. We believe in the sock, whole foot comfort. We believe in the sock that don't have to bunch, blister, or fall. We believe in free-range toes and having room to roam in fine gauge merino wool as comfortable as home. We believe in made in USA, and we believe in doing what we say. Wear fits, we fit. That's right. That's right. Wear fits, we fit. That's right. That's right. And we believe in the sock. Fits, fits, fits. We believe in the sock. Fits, fits, fits. We believe in the sock. And we believe in the sock. Fits, 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 fits. We believe in the sock. Fits.
And now, back to the show. All right, we're here on St. Patrick's Day with Eoin Comerford, who's actually Irish, and producer Dave, who's actually a mix of... You changed the outline. That's not fair. You're not allowed to change the outline. Norwegian and Oregonian.
I'm sorry to be factually correct. Then you're just
like
made up
Portlandia
shit
better.
that you just put. Yeah,
That's right.
but just made up.
What's up, guys?
Nothing. Nothing is up.
I'm wearing green. Are you wearing green? I think. Yeah.
Well, it's technically Friday now. I should
Well,
have
yeah, but
planned
you should
ahead.
have thought
Yeah.
ahead. Exactly.
How do we greet an Irishman from Ireland on St. Patrick's Day? Is there a way to do it? Are we supposed to, is there a method?
You raise a Guinness and you say sláinte.
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 Fantastic.
All right, there we
Sláinte.
go. We should have all gotten Guinness for this at 11 o'clock in the morning on 4 days before St.
I'm
Patrick's
super
Day.
down with that. And I want you to know I'm wearing the American Irish version of Army Green. So there we go.
Okay. All right.
Hey, before we get into it, I had to take one opportunity. Dave, the ultimate brand asshole opportunity came out this week. Did you see the hats that Major League Baseball released?
Yes, I
saw
did.
those.
Yes, I did.
Did you see it, Owen?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about Owen. You, for the listener, maybe didn't miss it. Major League Baseball released hats that basically had the team names written across the front of the hat, with then the logo imprinted right in the middle across that team name, which then resulted in a lot of inappropriate words. So
Yes.
Google it if you want to see what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think the one that broke the internet was it was Texas, but the X was replaced by the T as the logo. So yeah,
So you had Titas, and then you
Titas.
had the other good one was the Angels, which then became Anals.
Yes. And the Astros become assholes. Yeah.
Assholes.
Yeah,
Assholes.
right.
So I think the funny part is this is actually really talks about the need for more inclusivity in our industry, because if you actually had Spanish speaking people that worked for whoever the hell it was, Fanatics or New Era or somebody,
New Era, yeah.
maybe they would have figured out that, oh shit, we're just like cursing all over the place right now.
They had anals and they missed it. I this is what I mean. Like the ultimate brand asshole opportunity. Someone had knocked on. I would have taken half a second, walked in, and be like, yeah, you can't do this. You can't do this.
The funniest part is that they've taken them all down, but these things are like selling on eBay for $1,000 a pop. I mean, everybody wants a Tate-ass hat right now.
The funny thing is, you didn't even need to have the dirty ones. Like if you look at the Boston one, because it's the B, it looks like Bobin. I mean, it's just the dumbest thing. How do you not see that you're creating words by what you're doing?
It's amazing that the front page story on USA Today is baseball caps yanked from shelf because they're risque. That's just fantastic. Oh my gosh.
So good.
All right, well, let's get into what we're going to talk about today, which the opening shot today is presented by Garage Grown Gear, your hub for ultralight gear. Learn more by heading to garagegrowngear.com. And we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the outdoor economy today, because heading into 2025, the general consensus was that this year would be somewhat of a return to form of sorts for the outdoor industry. The prevalent inventory issues being resolved, open to buy on the rise, participation hitting all-time highs. Many, including our own Comerford, felt optimistic back at the end of 2024 that by the time we got to the end of this year, we would have, maybe come back a little bit. But something funny happened on the way to the gear shop. In January, we got a new presidential administration who seems to be hell-bent on sowing chaos everywhere. And apparently things look a little different than we expected them to be as we sit here in the middle of March. So, Owen, why don't you take us through this? You and I were chatting a little bit yesterday about this. Let's start with where things were at the end of 2024 and the optimism we felt just a few months ago, and kind of where we've ended up now a few months into this new year.
I mean, really, the beginning of 2024 was still pretty rough. I mean, you look at everything that happened, the REI results and how they were feeling. You look at, EMS and the bankruptcies and VASC and all the things, right? So, and it felt like just we had really been through it as an industry since 2023, really mid 2022. So 2 years of really, really rough stuff. But it felt like the pall was lifting in the second half of 2024 as I think finally we were through the worst of the inventory glut, I would say. Brands weren't being quite as incredibly discounty on their own websites. Retailers were kind of pulling back a little bit. For a lot of the publicly traded companies, that you were starting to see a combination of a return to comp growth with margin expansion, which really talked to a reduction in discounting. And actually, if you look at some of the publicly traded stocks, like I was looking today at VF Corp, at Columbia, Wolverine Worldwide, and Dick's Sporting Goods. If you look at those, on average between July 1st and kind of the end of January, they were up like 21%. And a lot of them, it was just like boom, 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 like a steady rise. And really, really, I think the overall mood was, okay, we're through the worst of this. 2025 isn't going to be like a banner year. I don't think anybody was saying that necessarily, but they felt like, okay, I think we have some stability here. We've kind of found bottom, and we're going to kind of get the inflection going back up again. And since the end of January, I don't what happened at the end of January. I don't know, but since the end of January,
this is little thing.
You look at the stock price, and it has fallen off a cliff. We're actually, if you take those same four basket of stocks, we're down 19%. So 7 months we grew 21%. Boom, boom, boom. 6 weeks we're down,
giving it all back,
and it's like a cliff, right? And you listen to what I hear privately from folks, and also just public statements from companies, and everyone's like spooked. It's like, whoa, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's like every category isn't just like one category. It's like, oh, they're struggling over there, right? It's like it's seemingly everything is impacted.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Citi just came out with some of their results that said quarter to date for apparel quarter to date, and that's it's the retail quarter, so the beginning of January 1st.
Yeah,
apparel is down 12%. Athletic footwear, okay, down 22%. That's wow. Those are huge numbers, and so really, really struggling. And then you have folks like Walmart, who obviously are more at the the lower income side of things. They're talking about the fact that people are buying smaller pack sizes of things at the end of the month because they can't afford to get the regular pack size because they're running out of money before they get paid. Airline bookings way off, right? People are just saying, well, I don't know. I'm going to hold off on that trip to Europe or whatever and wait and see what happens here. And then even luxury, which over all of this, right? Luxury has kind of been untouchable in terms of its sales because we've got this whole income inequality thing going on. Even luxury spending was down 9.3% in February. And that's actually probably the scariest one from an outdoor perspective, because let's face it, a lot of our consumers are actually in the 100,000 plus and up range, right?
Those are the luxury purchases, right?
Exactly. I mean, they're the ones buying the $500 shells. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So it is rough.
So what's driving it? Like, what are the things you think that are really? I mean, obviously, it's a lot of things, right? Because it's crossing so many categories. But like specifically, kind of drilling down on it, what do you think is really driving this?
Well, some of this had been kind of building up for a while. Like for example, all of that stimulus money has been slowly ebbing. And if you look at savings levels for people and credit card debt, we're basically kind of back to where we were pre-pandemic, roughly. Okay, so people got all that money, they kind of saved it, they paid off their credit cards. That's all gone, right? So that's gone out of the market. There's a lot more job uncertainty now because of everything that's going on with federal employees, obviously, but just an overall feeling of, is anybody safe in their current role? People are switching jobs less. People are seeing less wage increases going on. So everyone's feeling a little bit scared there in terms of their roles. Like, is AI going to take my job? What's going on, right? So there's that piece. You've got housing costs remain very high. People have been hoping, this is the year that mortgage rates come down because the Fed's going to act there. The Fed's not going to act because they're worried that tariffs are going to blow things up, right? So housing costs are super high. But the really big one, though, is just the overall level, the tariff uncertainty thing, right? It's on again, it's off again, and so people are like, what is going on? And so this is affecting business as well, and so business is feeling really just whipsawed around because of the whole tariff thing. That affects the way business leadership acts. That affects the way people feel about where they work, and that also affects people's feeling about, am I going to be able to afford stuff if everything goes up 25%? So it's just creating this really weird moment where people just feel like, what the F is going on right now?
Dave, this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot with this, but if you're sitting at a brand, like how messaging goes, and messaging is always a topic, but like when you sit here in this kind of, how do you present your brand? How do you kind of go out in the public and like, either inspire people to support you, or kind of like what message do you even send from a brand at a time like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think obviously kind of where your brand is on its life cycle is certainly important to this. I think that the bigger
Sure.
brands have a different playbook. If you're at a smaller brand, you're kind of always living in a challenger mindset. And so you're kind of always having to do more with less. You're trying to carve out niche opportunities within this larger kind of group. And so I think those are the types of strategies that probably play well for times, of economic downturn. But like I said, they kind of already play into your challenger mindset. The outdoor is not a monolith, right? From a psychographic perspective as well as an activity perspective. So this idea that there's going to be an downturn for all of these macro reasons, there's still bits of positivity that you've got to go find, and places, and really more important to find people who are your types of folks, your types of enthusiasts, your types of lifestyle.
Yeah, how do you endear yourself to
Right.
folks, right? It's kind of,
Right.
this is
And
the
again,
moment
this is
you can,
good
get some
anytime. This is
loyalty.
good advice anytime. But right now it becomes very crucial because those dollars are important, and those committed customers are fewer. So you've really got to, you can't waste your time with too much waste in your messaging or your communication budget. You've really got to really hone who you're talking to and make sure that they are on the likely list.
Typically, when things are rough and the consumer is feeling spooked, that's usually the best time to actually give them a little bit of escapism.
Yeah.
Right. And to talk about the restorative nature of being outdoors, really inspire them with really aspirational type things, really get people excited about the outdoors, give them something else to think about than the economy or the administration or whatever. So that's one element of advice, I think, which is good. But then if that's all you do and you're not speaking out against some of the things that are impacting the outdoors and our access to public lands, and to the employees that work those public lands, then, is that short-sighted? It's a tough balance. And what I'm seeing right now is, and I've looked across the social media of most of the leading brands just to see what the mood is out there right now. And it is like all steam ahead. It's products, it's vistas. I mean, nobody's talking about anything related to, outside of maybe REI and Patagonia. No one's talking about anything about what's going on in like the serious stuff. No one's talking about that. It's all, here's our latest Gore-Tex blah blah blah. It's just
How much is that?
The scope
I was just saying, how much is that? The fact that a lot of these campaigns and communication, were set in motion a couple months ago, and so they're just not even reacting or set up to react to these changes that are only 4 weeks old, 5 weeks old, if you will. So there's that, just kind of the inertia of the system, but then there's also just, I think you're kind of getting at the reluctance to even take some of this stuff on. And
well, the scope is so much bigger this time, right? I mean, a lot of you think back to Trump 1.0, and it was like, bear's ears, and we had something we could really latch onto and everything. And now it's just like, to Owen, to your point, like we're just crossing so many different. Where do you want to put your attention? Is it public lands? Is it just sales? Is it where do you want to? How do you kind of where do you want to speak out? I mean, a friend of the pod, Wes Allen, the retailer out of Wyoming. He wrote a piece on LinkedIn this week, kind of talking about this from his perspective and kind of offering his point of view. And he's kind of seeing a lot of the same things coming from the retail point of view. I mean, who's at the most risk right now? Is it, the brands, retailers, consumers, all the above? I mean, because I hate to use the word unprecedented because it sounds like a hyperbolic, like podcast thing to say, but this is kind of unprecedented in a lot of ways.
Actually,
right?
unprecedented doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore, Colin, because now everything is unprecedented. Yeah, it's not hyperbolic at all. It's actually understating.
I would say
take that word back.
I mean, it's definitely one of the great points actually that Wes brings up in his piece is the potential impact on international travel and people coming in to the U.S. to visit our national parks and just to recreate in general, right?
We're already seeing it. There was an article this morning about how Canadians aren't coming to our Western U.S. Ski resorts this winter.
Right, but it's not only that, because I think we're a little bit blind to the degree to which the rest of the world actually does pay attention to what's going on over here. I would say,
right.
Quite frankly, there's a lot of people that I know in Europe that are better informed of what's actually happening than quite a few Americans, which is kind of scary.
At least half.
But what I would say is the rest of the world is really shook by what they're seeing right now in the U.S.
Yeah.
And some of the headlines over there are about people like I was just reading today about 2 German tourists who ended up being detained for 2 to 6 weeks in a detention center near where you live, Colin. And so it's because they were trying to cross the border from Tijuana. Both had their documents or whatever. There was maybe some irregularity, but you get thrown in a detention center without any access to a lawyer or anything, and this is creating real trepidation for Europeans who were thinking of traveling and coming over here. So I think we're going to see a big impact there in terms of just of those folks coming in to visit. And then, and if you're flying in from Europe, you may not want to lug all your stuff with you. So maybe you are going to hit the gear store on the way to Yosemite or whatever, and pick up your meals, your fuel, your whatever else, stove, whatever, right? It's not good.
Well, so what are our predictions? Like, what are your predictions for the rest of the year? How does this play out? Is there any way to even tell how this plays out? I mean, there's just so much uncertainty right now.
Yeah, there isn't. And the challenge for some of these public companies, like Dick's as an example, they had a record fourth quarter. I mean, just off the charts good. Sales up 6%, margins were up. It was just great. But then all they did was say that their guidance for the year was a little soft. So they still said they were going to grow 1 to 3%, but the margin guidance or the profit guidance was a little soft. They got absolutely killed. Their stocks down like I don't know 18%. So, and that's actually they're being, I wouldn't say they're being alarmist in what theirs is, and I think it's tough for some of these companies because they're worried. They have a huge amount of uncertainty as well, but they also don't want it to become a self-fulfilling prediction. If a bunch of companies come out and say, well, we think, it's a shit show, our sales are going to be down, 5 to 10% this year. Well, suddenly the stock market just starts to crash. Everybody feels like the world is ending, and it really does become. We go from a little lack of consumer confidence straight into a recession. So it's tough right now. But then you've got the administration that is basically saying, hey, maybe we need a recession. Maybe we need that, because what's really important is we get these tariffs in place. That's what's important. So it's kind of nuts.
All right, Dave, pull us out of the muck here. Say something. What do you got for us?
Where's it going? Well, I mean, look, let's think the repair and rental market should be doing well. Like, we're going to start to see doubling down. Maybe that's not so bad. As much as we're hearing the doom of our public lands and the layoffs at parks, I think some of that's going to be clawed back. But I do believe the entry level and accessible will still be a focus of people, because that's the options we're going to have. And so even though we're talking about that doom and gloom of that, I do think that that's still going to continue to rise, and new people getting into the outdoor, or just, again, that entry level. The pinnacle is always going to be there. They're going to find their money. The dirtbags are going to find their way to the places they need to go to and do the great things that kind of keep that engine of the outdoor going. I think some of that could be okay for us. I mean, just if we're doing more with less, that's a positive thing.
Well, and if you're looking for, positivity, go no further than the Lord of Dyneema Garage Grown Gear.
There you go.
Who is your hub for all things ultralight backpacking, and they've got an epic thru hiking giveaway running right now. There are over $15,000 worth of prizes from dozens of the best ultralight backpacking brands like Hyperlight Mountain Gear, Gossamer Gear, Western Mountaineering, and Z-Packs, just to name a few. They'll be choosing 10 winners, so go ahead and enter now before the giveaway closes on March 26th. Head to garagegrowngear.com and click on the links there. You'll find all the stuff you need to all the things you need to enter that by going over there. Yeah, a bit of a serious episode today, folks. So thank you, Lloyd and the crew at Garage Grown Gear for giving us a little bright spot as our partner in this.
Right.
So thank you, thank you guys at Garage
I
Grown
assume
Gear.
we can't win, right? Because we're kind of part of the gig. Because that's $15K in gear. That's kind of sweet.
I already entered like 16 times. Is that all right? Let me know, Garage Grown Gear. I'll give it to somebody else. I'll share it with these guys. All right, so next up, we've got a few quick-hitting brand and product stories to run through. And this part of the show is presented by Obos, who loves hiking, wants us to talk more about hiking, the activity that we all do but no one talks about. So we're going to count the ways we love hiking in a minute. But first up, this week, Yeti recently released a new backpack, the Rancheros 27-liter, that's eerily similar to the Mystery Ranch Catalyst 26. And this week, Gear Junkie did a breakdown of the pack. Owen, you posted about it on LinkedIn, which I went looking at that this morning. You got a lot of commentary about this pack review. I was kind of surprised, actually.
It got a lot of love. Yeah, it was interesting. The comments were all over the place. Quite a lot of people were like, "Yeah, that is Yeti's brand equity, and that's how Yeti prices stuff. And by golly, it makes total sense." And then there were other people that were more like, well, the Mystery Ranch one, it looks like shit. The Yeti one looks really cool. And like there was one guy that was like, well, the Yeti one has those straps. Those straps, I mean, you get in the backcountry, those straps are worth the $96 difference. Oh yeah. So okay. So there you go.
The 15-cent, webbing is
right. It's worth $96.
It's a hell of a margin on those straps.
But so the reality is, and I think what I wish I had done actually is show that really the Yeti piece is somewhat of a combination of the 2-day assault, which is another 27-liter pack, also has a laptop pocket, and is $229. So it's kind of in between. But is actually a far superior pack to the Yeti piece. The Yeti piece is much more of kind of a lifestyle element. The 2-day assault does have those straps that apparently are worth $96. It also has PALS webbing, but it has a full plastic backplate. It's got a much better sculpted strap system. It's got a waist belt, removable, much better padding and wider back panel. I mean, it's just a much better
You
pack,
are such a gear nerd. You are such a gear dork. I didn't know you were this deep on this stuff, man.
Well, yeah, hey, I had to sell this stuff. You can't just fake it. I mean, you got to know what it is you got to know your merch. But I mean, yeah. So for people saying that, well, yeah, the Yeti one because it's 700 denier quarter versus 500 denier. I mean, just stop. And but
I did like a friend of the pod, Kevin Joyce. He meant a good point about the potential margins being off versus Mystery Ranch versus Yeti. I thought that was an interesting point. But my question is, how do we think this plays into Yeti's plans, the Sunset Mystery Ranch later this year? I mean, I think it's I don't know. Do we feel like do you think they might backtrack? Do you think there might be sort of a way where they're going to kind of coexist and they're sort of testing the waters on that? Because this is like they kind of put a similar silhouette of two different backpacks out there and see how it goes? Or is this priming the pump for, oh, don't worry, Mystery Ranch is going away and this is what you're going to have going forward?
Oh, yeah, no, this is priming the pump. I mean, you don't make two products that look almost the same and then like, you can get this one. Or for 50% more, you can get this one that has the same product.
Why are they waiting?
This is where we praise the benevolence of Yeti, because in days of yore, they just would have ripped them off and not even said anything. But at least they bought the brand before that they marginalized it and took their IP. I think there's a real kindness going on there.
I think the answer to your question, though, Colin, is why have them both running is just because Mystery Ranch already has a ton of inventory, and they, and a ton of on order from their retail partners. So it's not a spigot you just turn off overnight.
Right.
But clearly the Yeti is going to completely replace it with a, very similar product line, just a little bit more expensive. That is in line with Yeti's own, margin expectations. So
and $96 straps.
They're really nice straps.
Also, this past week, so there were two stories of outdoor industry parent organizations in distress. First, it was reported that Solo Brands acknowledged they may be at a point where their quote, ability to continue is a concern. And then one day later, Pelican International made moves towards a potential bankruptcy filing in Canada. To clarify, Pelican International is the owner of water sports brands such as Dagger, Wilderness Systems, and Perception Kayaks. This is not the Case brand Pelican that we're talking about. So let's start with Solo. They were the first ones out. They own Solo Stove, Chubbies, and Oru Kayak. They are mostly entirely a D2C business. Is it mostly or entirely? Are they all D2C?
No, they're in wholesale. Yeah.
Okay, so some wholesale as well. But they're known for their D2C business.
Yeah, and they started in D2C. So like Chubbies, for example, that's one of the brands under their umbrella. Started as a D2C brand, but now is really big in wholesale. They have a huge presence in Dick's Sporting as an example. And obviously Solo brand started as Solo Stove, which was totally D2C, but then got into wholesale.
That's right. Now they're like in Target and places like that as well. But even with that wholesale presence, I think you wrote in your post on LinkedIn about it that like all their revenue coming in is accounting for 96% of their operating expenses or something. No. What was that piece?
No. So basically, if you look at the financials, their gross margin is 61%, which is actually, that's solid, right? I mean, if you can have a 1% gross margin, which usually includes the product margin plus like shipping and handling costs and those sorts of things, I mean, that's the basis of actually kind of a decent P&L, right? And even their marketing expense is not insane. It's about like 21% of sales. Okay. Which, even for the companies that I work with, the smaller companies, like, 20% is like the very upper end. I'd much rather see it closer to 15%, but it's not, you could potentially get there, right, to profitability. So we've got 61%, take away 21%, we've got 40% left to cover all of our other expenses. Usually you'd say, hey, that's great, 40%, we should be able to make that work, especially, when we're a, $400+ million company, 40% of that is like, $240 million. You're like, okay, that works. Unfortunately, their actual operating expenses are 96% of revenue, not 40%.
What I was talking about,
it is $435 million, which is like woof, and so it's really just like how do you manage to spend that? Now, in fairness, a chunk of that, of the 136 of that is actually restructuring, contract termination, and impairment charges. Part of it was
they're blowing through CEOs over there.
Well, and look, they've got a hearty lead budget for their influencers.
I was getting a Snoop Dogg. Don't worry.
So
he had to come up.
That's all cash. It's out the door.
but part of that is also the fact that I think they shut down one of their acquisitions, IC Breeze, and so there's a major hit from that. But even taking all that aside, you still have a huge I don't understand how you spend that money, quite frankly, because you take that piece out of it.
You have to try to, right? I mean, how do you have to be like, what are you writing checks for?
Right. So their SG&A, right? So not marketing, not product, none of that, just SG&A, $180 million. Okay. And I think part of that is just the kind of a broken D2C model. And we've seen this story before. Right, the whole D2C darling thing, which they were like the outdoor D2C darling. But we've seen it with Allbirds, with Peloton, with Casper, Outdoor Voices, Yeti, on and on. Right, all of these brands that were just really ascendant in the late teens, and now rough. And they really thought of themselves as a D2C brand. In fact, when they went public in 2021, they chose the stock symbol D2C. Right,
hubris will come back and bite you every time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and because what they thought was, we have cracked the code on D2C.
Yeah, we got it.
We have got this Solo Stove thing, killing it. And so we're going to just buy up a bunch of these outdoor active D2C brands, sprinkle our D2C magic on them, and we're just going to be rolling in the cash. So we're going to buy, they bought Oru Kayak, they bought Isle, which is like another kayak brand. They bought Chubbies, Icy Breeze, and it's been It's been not good. So the stock peaked shortly after the IPO at $21. Yesterday, it was 22 cents. Yeah, to the math people, math geniuses on amongst our listeners, that is a drop of 99%.
Who's going to be representing them at the bankruptcy hearings? Will it be Snoop Dogg or,
Wearing chubbies.
right? Will they just to gain favor with the judge,
So
Everyone
let
loves
me ask a
Chubbies.
question to that though, in the sense like you've got their holdings, and Chubbies does seem to be doing well, at least from a visibility and product. And do we know that brand is necessarily unprofitable? Could that be sold
Yeah, they look
off?
like a bright spot
instantly.
of all of
Because
them.
I look at the other brands like kayaking. We know this category is in trouble, and it has been for a while. And Solo Stove is a backyard stove. Like I cannot ascribe that to any kind of long-term, massive growth potential. It's a backyard stove. But Chubbies is solidly the lifestyle apparel category that has a pretty good handle on who their consumer is in their community. So I feel like that's a potential valuable property.
I would say that the most likely scenario here is that they to stay out of bankruptcy, they basically sell off the Chubbies brand. They'll probably have to, they bought it at a real premium a couple of years ago, so they'll probably take a big hit for that. But from a cash perspective, I think that they could still get a pretty decent number for Chubbies, and it's high margin. They're actually pretty efficient from a marketing perspective, and as I said, really taking off in wholesale right now, and in a lot of bigger players. It's premium price, but not crazy premium, very accessible, cool, fun. So yes, I do think that Chubbies is probably the most valuable piece of the puzzle. And the other thing that they did was they actually drew down their line of credit. So I think they had a what's called a cleanup provision where you have to get your credit line down to zero. So they kind of cleaned it up towards the end of the year. But then they maxed it in January, so they took out like $277 million on the credit line and then they basically said, "Oh, by the way, we're in all of it. We're good under our covenants right now." So it was just a little background. When you get a line of credit or a loan, you have these agreements with banks to say, hey, listen, we got to do certain things and hit certain financial thresholds. Otherwise, you can call the loan, right? So that's a covenant. So what they're now saying is we're not going to be able to keep our covenants going into next year. So we took all the money we could to basically, sort of stockpile it for for the tough times ahead. So, and the thing of it is, I mean, they are good brands. They're great products. There's a lot here. It's just a matter of whether they are going to have the runway to be able to right the ship outside of a bankruptcy process.
Well, Dave, you mentioned the struggles of the kayaking category. Pelican, the next one we were talking about, they're a little bit of a different situation than what was going on with Solo. The struggles seem to be more related to those struggles in the kayaking category and also the uncertainty presented by, here it comes again, the Trump administration's tariff will we or won't we situation. This just came out last night as we were kind of prepping this episode. What did you learn about what's going on at Pelican there, Eoin?
So with Pelican, they and actually I heard about this I think before it really broke in the news through somebody on LinkedIn, but yeah, so they're based in Quebec, and so they have filed a notice of intent to make a proposal under the Canadian Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. And I'm not an expert in Canadian bankruptcy law, but from what I gather, this is kind of like a Chapter 11 versus a Chapter 7. So in other words, it's a restructuring versus a liquidation. So they're really going to look to renegotiate their debt, what they owe their vendors, et cetera. Also worth noting that Confluence Outdoor, which includes Dagger, Kayaks, Perception, Wilderness Systems, GSI, Advanced Elements, like a bunch of brands, they're the U.S. subsidiary that they're part of is not included right now, but they're not saying it won't be. included, or that they won't do something separately there. But yeah, it's obviously it's a really tough time in the kayak space right now, and a lot of sort of deals happening here and there, and the kayak industry is still one of the ones that, even going into this year, probably was still going to be rough because, I think I've talked about this before, but really the length of the hangover is directly proportional to the cost of the product. So, kayaks where if somebody in 21 went out and bought a $1,500 or $2,000 kayak, they're not going to be in the market for another kayak for quite a while. Same thing with, $2,000 bikes. So that's why those two categories are in such rough shape even today. And even going into this year when we were thinking things were going to be good, it still wasn't going to be good in those categories. So yeah, it's tough. And hopefully this will give them the kind of the air cover to be able to reorganize and keep keep these important brands in good space, in a good place, and supporting the industry.
Today's episode of The Rock Fight is presented by Oboes, who is helping us ask the question, how do I love hiking? Let me count the ways. Number 1, the unholy power of duct tape on blisters. You don't question it. You just trust it.
Colin, if you're wearing Oboes, you don't need to worry about blisters.
Can you prove that in a court of law?
I can.
Okay.
It's podiatric jurisprudence.
Number 2, feeling like a hobbit on a grand quest, even if the quest is just a loop trail. And number 3, mid-hike.
Hobbits, though, don't wear anything on their feet. We're doing this for a boot brand? Okay.
They wear Oboes. I think that was in Tolkien's original vision.
Yeah, you're clearly not including the Oboes clan of the Shire.
It was in the appendices,
right?
I think, or the
Absolutely.
similarity.
In Frodo's birthday party, they were off to the left, the Oboes clan, and they were the ones with boots.
There was the Proudfoots.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. And then the Oboes.
Yeah, that's right.
I think is what it was.
Oboes.
Yeah.
Yes, the Oboes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking. I just want to make sure we get
They didn't destroy the One Ring or anything, but they were there.
No, they were hiking. I mean, they were busy.
And number 3 on the list today, mid-hike daydreams of the post-hike feast. Are we talking burgers, tacos, maybe both?
Yeah, I've been
maybe some
there.
pizza
I've
too?
Been there,
Why not?
Sure.
I love a good
means
burger taco.
Right?
A burger taco? Yeah, I'm into that. I like how you said that too. Very, very St. Patrick-y of you right there. I don't know, how did you say taco? Say taco.
That's how you keep the warm Guinness down, is a burger taco.
Every once in a while, the Gaelic in these just creeps out. Taco.
It's like, the barrier between that is at its thinnest on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Well, for many reasons, yes.
Number 4, hiking means finding your soulmates. And in this case, that means roads, rivers, and trails of Milford, Ohio. If you find yourself in the greater Milford area, pop in and say hi to the folks at Roads, Rivers, and Trails. And maybe like the obscure hobbits of the Shire, buy a pair of Oboes boots. And number 5 means the Oboes Catabatic collection, which has added the all-new Catabatic LT, which takes the whole collection to a new level with a lighter package, improved performance, and additional environmentally friendly materials. They go fast packing, day hiking, whatever your fancy. The Catabatic LT is your hiking shoe of choice. And this hiking appreciation moment is brought to you by Oboes of Bozeman, Montana, certified B Corp, 6 million tree planter, and proud inhabitant of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Oboes is the maker of premium quality footwear for the trail and the Cupid to the outdoor world. Oboes, love hiking.
It's time for a party shot.
All right, for my parting shot, I'm excited to talk to you guys about this today. So last week, outdoor brand Stio announced its first ever technical footwear line. The Ridge Cap collection is available to buy on Stio's website and in their locations throughout the U.S. The products are basically a low and a mid lightweight hiking boot, though interestingly, the word boot is not used in the press release announcing the launch, just shoe. But they're basically unremarkable shoes. I think looking at them, I have some nits to pick on the design, but that's not why I'm bringing them up as the parting shot. Normally, I would lambaste this move because, breaking into footwear, as I've talked about before, is really challenging. But this is from Stio, who seems to have the habit of just sort of chugging along, kind of untouched by whatever else is happening in the industry. So I suppose my parting shot is that I'm predicting that these new shoes or boots or whatever they're calling them from Stio won't catch on? I mean, it's a lot of inventory and investment to make and distribute them only via D2C, which is what they're currently doing. So I think the smart money would say that's not going to happen. But because it's Stio, I don't feel good about that prediction. I mean, analyzing Stio is sort of like Nielsen trying to figure out who's watching what on Netflix. So I don't know. But I'm curious what you guys think. I mean, how do we... Stio just sort of... They just do their thing. They just keep showing up, like, opening new stores, new product collections. People love them. They sell to wholesale. They're around, but they kind of, a little like Arc'teryx, have removed themselves from the conversation. So I don't know. What do you guys think of these shoes, not boots?
I mean, from a look perspective, they do have that sort of interesting, like sneaker meets hiking boot kind of thing. Like, I think, was it, Who did that first? Well,
all of them.
No, there was like Forsake. I think was one.
Forsake was one of them. Danner also played in that fairly early in terms of the sneaker.
I mean, they're kind of on the Keen Obo's Merrill corner though, right? Of that kind of in between soft hiking shoe.
Here's what I would say: is I think Stio knows its customer. Okay, and its customer is a mid-50s white guy. That is the Stio customer, and this is
as represented today by
everyone on this podcast.
This phone call.
but no, you guys aren't as old as I am. But anyway, I mean this sort of it feels like elevated dad shoe to me as I look at it, and you know what? Maybe that's what that customer wants, right? Like if they had gone like okay, Colin, if they had come out with a Stio super shoe, okay, $300.
They did it, if I'm being honest.
No, but I mean that would have been like what I think a lot of companies.
Yeah, what are you doing?
We want to have we want to have the Stio super shoe, and that would have been completely wrong for this customer and this demographic. So it's like the Stio Skechers by Stio. I mean, it's.
Oh
yes,
you just nailed it. It's really what it is. It is Skechers by Stio, but I think $160, not cheap. And I think I had kind of similar thoughts when Rabbit came out with their shoe last year. When Rabbit Running, they came out with a shoe, like one style. I don't know. Maybe they have one or two colors, mostly just one color. Shoes are just tough and they're expensive, and the inventory, it's just a really hard category. And I would just say this is a bad idea. Like, why don't bother? Why are you? This is a hard, road to hoe. So why are we doing this? But to your point, Stio, they kind of know what they're. It seems like they know what they're doing.
Let's say I think it's probably great for that target audience. It's not cheap, but it's not insane, right? You're kind of in there with the Hokas and the Ons and the others.
Yeah.
You've got a Vibram sole, and so there's some technical aspects to this. Hey, but I would agree with you about one thing, though. It is super hard for an apparel brand to launch into footwear. We've seen so many try and fail. I mean, even Arc'teryx, right, who I think is getting some kudos right now for their footwear collection. Their first attempt at footwear did not go well.
Terrible.
Yes.
Terrible. Like, I mean, like it was you should have scrapped it. You should not have brought it to market. I don't care what you spent on that behind the scenes. It was that bad.
Yeah. It was, and for a brand that had Solomon as a stablemate to help them basically design it.
That was the most inexplicable part of the whole thing.
Oh, that was the biggest miss of all time in the outdoor industry.
But Stio is not trying to reinvent the world here with like Arc'teryx was with the booty and the whole bit, right? This
so bad.
This is, I don't know. It's a dad shoe.
I elevated dad shoes a great description of this, and it does feel like I said, I also put faith in, I think they know their customer. They're going to have some, it's their expectations. If they see this as a growth, I don't know about that necessarily. But with one of those challenges of building a footwear line out of an apparel, especially mindset, is the design language. There's just no new design language, and it's really hard to get to a new design language. So you need disruptors or performance brands that can use that form follows function as kind of a reason to create some silhouettes and stuff that kind of defy convention, right? Getting to that. And here, these are clearly not built for that. These are just to be comfortable. They're just like brown shoes. I called them like Stio Kais, you know what I mean? Or, they're just kind of that lifestyle-y kind of brown shoe. Like a performance loafer totally makes sense with this crowd. Like that's what we should be seeing for sure. But yeah, I think it's
Like
just
the Hoka Speed loafer?
Yeah, it is. It's just it's a product line. It is. It's a yeah, that's nice. It's not another one that kind of fit though. I think it will tie back together. That's kind of like a Stio Bose. I think maybe that's kind of where we're going.
I think this is a little like people who are betting on the Chiefs before the Super Bowl. Like everyone's like, well, the Eagles have a better team, but God, you just can't bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, right? And this is how I feel here. It's like everything is lined up to say you probably shouldn't have done this, Stio. But I kind of don't want to bet against them based off of like I've in the past. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? They're not going to make it. Then like they just kind of keep figuring it out. But I mean, it is lined up again. Yeah, two styles. You're in your own stores. Like we said, expensive to produce, inventory, all those things. It is stacked against them. So it's kind of a weak parting shot that I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. But I'm really, if you made me put my money on it, I'd probably put it on them. So I don't know. We'll see how this one shakes out. Maybe a year from now, all of a sudden they have their next two styles that they're just going to fill out their line. I have no idea. I will throw a rock at the. I do not like the sidewall pine cone.
Yeah.
Design. I think that looks that.
It looks like
I didn't know what it was at first. I'm like, why are we putting a weird boulder? Why does it look like the thing from the Fantastic Four on the side of your shoe? They're like, oh, that's your pine cone logo. I see now.
Exactly.
Not a good design aesthetic.
Yeah.
But
it's how
it looks like it's
but to your point, better than other brands have done in their first attempt.
It's like Garanimals, though. It's how you match them together. Make sure you've got the right pair.
Garanimals. Wow. Okay. Another dated reference here on the Rock Fight.
Yeah. Well, you said dad shoes. Come on.
That's true. Good point. The Dad Shoe Podcast featuring us. That's all I got today, guys. Anything else? Anything else you guys have for the show today?
No. There's just way too much going on right now.
Don't let the doom and gloom get you. We have a vital industry. Go outside and experience it. And you want to do something. Get our brands to pool their resources and fund outdoor jobs, outdoor events. Let's get outside. They can't tear us down. They can't tear the parks down. Let's get out there, and that's where the industry could play a part. Because people working in the outdoor is the first step of a vital outdoor industry. So we've got to find a way to make sure that we keep people out there working. It's my parting shot.
Producer Dave with bringing the optimism.
Right, there you go.
Oh, and do you want to tell them again how we're all fucked, like you said at the beginning of the episode?
No. It's no. That's the right approach, and I think that's the perfect approach for brands. Get your employees outside. For retailers, get your customers outside.
That's right.
Let's come together. Let's have some community here and build community outdoors.
We'll wrap it up there. Great job, guys. Come back on Wednesday to hear Shantae Salaver and I run through outdoor adventure headlines. Check out the latest from the Rock Fight Podcast Network, Open Container. New episode of that goes up tomorrow. The Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC. Our producer today, producer David Karstad, with art direction provided by Sarah. Where the hell is she anyway? Gensert. And for Eoin Comerford, I'm Colin Truth. Thanks for listening. And our guy, Krista Makes, he's back one more time, like he always does, every single time, to sing us right into another week. Get out. Oh, I scratched last week's script. I forgot I wrote that. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
It'll get out.